Okay, Jordan, we're back, and for all the people who were highly puzzled by a man of your obvious intellect and stature and scholarship, why would you be talking about something called astrology?
Well, first of all, let me say that the reason why I haven't been doing radio, for some time now, is I am under attack 24/7. I'm being attacked by these people that's on my website. On the homepage of my website, there's a red box there that's telling you that I'm having problems in court. Click on that box and go and read the whole page. Read it. Read what the courts are saying, what the lawyers are saying. I've been under attack. I cannot do anything that I'm not, attacked by these people. I can't do any radio because they call the radio station, they call the host of the show and threaten to sue them if I go on. I've been asked to speak at conferences, and these dolezals find out that I might be speaking at a conference. They will go and call the conference and email them and say they're going to sue the conference for having me on because I can't speak in public because they own my name, they own my money, they own my website, they own my product, they own everything. They own me. They own everything. And so I can't do anything. I'm under attack continually. I don't have the finances to protect myself or to defend myself. I don't have anything. And therefore, it is very difficult for me and it's very, very difficult to be clever and resourceful and do radio and entertain audiences with knowledge and understanding when you live under the gun of being sued, threatened continually. It's just very difficult for me to do anything anymore until I get out from under these who have stolen my money, my website, my products, and they also try to steal my name so that I become persona non grata. I don't exist. And they take my name, my money, and everything I've ever worked for and leave me for dead. So that's why I haven't been able to do radio, and that's why it's very, very, very difficult to even stay alive, that I'm under attack continually. So hopefully there will be some justice left in this world, and these people will go to because that's where they belong. They've stolen everything from me, and all you have to do is look at the court records, and if you have a legal mind of any kind, go read what the attorneys are saying. These people are and they belong in. So I just want people to understand why it is I haven't been doing radio. A lot of people email me and say, where are the shows? Well, it's very difficult to do the shows. I don't have the money to pay the station to do these shows. It costs money to for the station to record the shows for me and to put it out. I don't have anything. I have nothing. Zero. Nothing. And when you have zero, nothing, it's very difficult to defend yourself in court. So that's the name of that tune. That's why I come on every now and then the best I can until I can get past this legal destructiveness that these people have done to me, and almost for 5 years now. It's going on 5 years that these people have stolen everything from me and destroyed my name, my career, everything I've ever worked for. These people need to be dealt with by the law. So I just want everyone to understand what the situation that I've had to live with for 5 years. So, but I feel so very, very strongly, and I've said this before. I think it bears witness again to say it again. Suppose you, by chance, one day happen to find something of extremely extraordinary value, some sort of a treasure that was hidden, and you just inadvertently, by chance, happened to be in the right place at the right time and stumble upon something which was hidden. Now, if you go out and first of all, you don't want to go out and tell everybody what you found. You got to think about it first. What's the smart thing to do? If you found, say, millions of dollars in diamonds or millions and millions of dollars in precious coins or whatever that somebody had stashed away, they thought they were hidden for good, and you just happened by chance to stumble upon it and found it, what would you do? Well, first of all, I would think the first problem you're going to have is that people are going, whoever you're going to tell is going to say to you, if it sounds too good to be true, it's probably not. It probably is too good to be true. So you're probably just babbling away about something that's in fact not true at all. So how are you going to convince the world of the value and the worth and the value of the thing that you have found, when most people are going to tell you that's probably a bunch of bull? He just thinks he's found something. It's like fool's gold. You thought you found gold. No, it's just iron pyrite. It's not really what you think it is. Well, how do you convince the world that is so turned off on the idea that there could be something extremely valuable that's been hidden? What would you say? How would you present your find to the world to get someone of authority to look at what you found? And you might think that sounds silly, but it's a very legitimate problem. If you found something that you're not supposed to know exists, and it's of extreme value, how would you convince people that you really do have something that's pretty hard to believe? That, well, it's too good to be true. No, this is pretty good, but it is true. So that's my question. How would you adequately explain the value of the thing you have found to a people who will think that you're full of bull? That's been my problem for many years. Because while on the face of it, I have heard so many times about astrology being, it's not a science. Well, let's look at science. You want to talk about science? Every 5 years, science totally changes. Everything we knew and nailed down, and there was no doubt about it 10 years ago, yeah, it's all gone. It's all totally gone. We got new instruments. We got better telescopes, microscopes. We got better equipment now. And now we know that everything that we knew 10 years ago is not true. The whole thing is ludicrous on the face of it. So now you got to go back and start looking at the new facts about the things you've been looking at, because you thought you had the whole truth. Well, my God, you could go back, let's go back 100 years and see what the best of the best of the best, the top scientists of the world in 1914, and what they were saying, as opposed to what we now know. Well, it's totally different. And so I'm not impressed when I hear that someone who has a PhD or a doctorate and they say, "Oh, it's a bunch of bull. That what this guy's talking about is irrelevant. It's a pseudo science and all that kind of stuff." No, you better look at the science establishment itself and realize that the people at the top in the science world, in the world of science, are getting money from the federal government. They're getting money. They make a living off of the universities giving them salaries. So scientists, I've talked to archaeologists who will tell you that if you find something of extreme value in archaeology, if a scientist or an archaeologist was not working for a university, was not working for a federal agency, was not working for some kind of a very important governmental institution. And if he's not working for any of those institutions, and he finds something of extraordinary value, nobody is going to listen. Nobody wants to hear it. And so, and if someone finds something, like I said, not only nobody's going to hear it, but the rest of the so-called science world is going to put it down and say it's a bunch of bull. Why? It's because they, who are working for these institutions and colleges and universities, who are being paid large salaries to find things in archaeology, they didn't find it. You found it. Some poor guy out there in the middle of nowhere, out with his family vacationing, and happened to dig up something out in the middle of nowhere and found something of extraordinary value. But he's not a scientist. He's not connected to any university, so he's obviously out of his mind, so we don't even look at it. So that's so much for science. And anyone who knows anything about what the science community is all about, it's just a religion. Science is a religion. It's got its holy men. They have their holy orders. They have their, like all religions, they are filled with money and political power. So science is not really science. There's only a handful of people I consider to be, in fact, scientists. And those people you will never hear from. They're extraordinarily brilliant people who have, who have uncovered extraordinary and brilliant things about the world we live in. But you're never going to hear about them because they're not connected to any university and getting large salaries from some grant from the federal government. And so the universities can't claim that, see, our guy found this. Or the government can say, yep, see, our government scientists, they found this because we're so important. No, some guy at night with a telescope in his backyard, he finds a planet that you didn't even know existed. Well, nobody's going to talk about it. It's not important. We just forget it and move on. Go watch basketball and just forget it. So we have nothing but corruption, lies, deception, stupidity, ignorance, self-centered, egotistical, moronic crap going on, calling it science. We call it religion. We call it commerce. So all of our institutions that we humans have dreamt up, put into place, are usually dreamt up and put into place by very powerful moneyed interest. Very powerful interest who owns now. Not in the beginning, but who now own the universities, who now own the banks, who own the institutions of higher learning. And these universities are getting money from the government. The scientists are getting money from the university. So there's a system in place. And if you don't belong to the system, like George Carlin says, it's a big club and you ain't in it. So if you find something of really extraordinary value and you're not in the big club, then you don't exist. You're not important. And if the government can use it in wartime, if the government can use it as a weapon, or if the government can use it in any way, they will get it. But it'll be very quiet. No one will ever know. But the government will come in and take what you have discovered. And most likely you will have, it will be a terrible event, but you will die of cancer. You will die of some terrible disease or something within about 2 weeks. And what you discovered will never, ever, ever be known to the public ever again. So it's very difficult if you have something of real importance that you have discovered to try and give it to your fellow man. On the one hand, you're going to be marginalized and made to look like a fool because you're nobody. Well, how would you know anything? Or that you do have something important and the government wants it, and but they don't want anyone knowing that they have it. They don't want you talking about it, so they will get it from you, and then you will conveniently die of suicide by getting shot in the back of the head 4 times. You committed suicide. So I know that there's the problem exists in this world that if you have something of real value, how are you really going to get it out to the public so that the public can benefit from it? And how are you going to be able to get past all of the so-called important people who didn't find what you found? And they're going to make you look like a fool, and so that you'll just shut up. So that's the problem that I've come across in religion and all the different subjects I've been talking about. I get nothing but condemnation from religions, from people who consider themselves to be authorities on everything. I always say I'm not an authority on anything. I'm just an ordinary man pursuing extraordinary knowledge. I'm not stupid. I'm not a PhD. I don't have any of those letters in front of my name or after my name. I don't claim to be a world's foremost authority. I'm just an ordinary human, but I'm not stupid. When I find something that I know is of extraordinary significance and importance, my first thought is to share it with my friends and with the people who want to know. I think that's a normal human quality, that if you really care about your friends and care about your family, and ultimately from that care about your community and ultimately care about your country, if you really care and you find something of extreme value, you want to share it. I mean, I grew up hearing that, if you're going to be going somewhere on vacation or going to some amusement park or something, you want to go with friends to share the experience with good friends. You want to share with other people. And so that's the way I feel. I just want to share with other people something that I have found that I know. I don't suspect, think, or wish, but that I know is of extraordinary value. Why? Because I have watched it over a period of time. I have experienced it over and over and over again. And every time I am amazed at how important the thing that I have found is. Now I have to try and talk to people who have no idea who I am and what I'm doing and what I'm talking about and the importance of it. So how do you tell people when you found something important? And especially if you're a doctor and you've been working on, and this is, I think, is a very good analogy. If you've been working on some kind of a disease, some sort of a rare but deadly disease, and you found the cure. First of all, if a doctor who is highly placed doctor in this country goes on a vacation to, say, some foreign country, to some country in the South Seas or whatever, and he sees that the people there are all dying of a disease, and being a doctor, highly intelligent, placed doctor, when he sees the symptoms of the people, he knows exactly what the problem is. But these people are living in a jungle. They're living in a very rare existence in a jungle setting. They don't have the background and the knowledge that doctor does. But then on the other hand, he's in a place where people are not going to listen to him. He's not from that area. He's not, they don't know who he is. They don't know about his credentials. And so he's trying to explain to the heads of the tribe what these people are dying from. It's very obvious to him. All they need to do is get a shot with this or that, or take this pill, and it's a disease that he understands well. But they don't understand it. And they're not going to listen to him anyway. They don't know who he is, and they couldn't care less. So how does he explain to these people who are dying of a disease that he has the answer for them, because he's not one of them. He doesn't look like them. He doesn't talk like them. He has a difference in the way his language is not understood by them. So how does he save the people? How does he do something to help these people who are dying? Well, that's the same problem I'm talking about before. I have found something that I know. Again, I don't think or suspect, I know is of profound significance. But how do you tell other people? How do you convince other people of what you have found and have them at least try it to see if I found something or didn't? So that's the way I feel about the subject of astrotheology. It's extraordinarily important stuff that so many people have never heard of before. Now, I also have many years ago made a discovery that someone showed me that there is a world of difference, which I didn't know. But they showed me that there was a world of difference between astrology and I don't know exactly what to call it, but it's like astrology in that it's an ability to read in the stars, in the constellations, in the heavens, the ancient peoples. I mean, my God, how many videos and movies have we watched on Discovery Channel, on History Channel, on all the networks about the Aztecs, the Mayas, and the Incas, and all the ancient wisdom and knowledge that the Egyptians and the Hindus and all the Babylonians and the Sumerians and all the ancient cultures of the world, they were brilliant on building pyramids, and they knew about this, they knew about that, and all of this wonderful, strange, extraordinary knowledge that was known by these ancient and prehistoric cultures. And we think, my God, how did these Egyptians build this? And how did they build the pyramids? And where did these people get this, all the knowledge that they had? Well, so I boil it all down to the fact that astrology has become a very, it's something to be put down in public. It's nonsense. The reason why you need to know why astrology has such a bad name. The most important reason, and there's more than one reason, but the most important reason is that for 1,000 years, the Catholic Church in the Vatican has dominated, 2,000 years. Christianity has dominated Europe. And since about the 4th century, the Vatican has dominated Christianity, and Christianity has dominated Europe, and Europe has dominated the world. So the people in power over this incredible system of political, governmental, religious system that has dominated the earth for 2,000 years, these are very powerful people. You're talking about the papacy. We're talking about the Pope, kings and rulers and princes of European nations and European countries. And those countries have dominated Europe, and Europe has dominated the world. So there has been a concerted effort, obviously, by powerful people in very high places of power in Europe, and unfortunately in America also, who are not interested in letting you know anything of any importance. I've always said that really important information is on a need-to-know basis, and you don't need to know. Again, George Carlin, it's a big club, and you ain't in it. So therefore, whatever is really important, you will never know. No one's going to tell you anything. And if they do tell you, they're going to get hurt. So you don't tell, you don't tell the people of the street, you don't tell the common man what you're doing. If you're a scientist working at NASA, if you're a physicist working for the government, and you're doing something with the government nobody is supposed to know, it's not going to be out on radio. It's not going to be on television. The really important stuff you are not going to be privy to hear, period. And the problem is in America, if somebody does know something and trying to tell you in the public, trying to wake you up, that can be very dangerous to talk about things that the public is not supposed to know about. So again, I'm just going around the whole story of bringing it together in one place, that if you have something important, of real and legitimate importance, it's going to be very difficult to get it out into the public and have people believe and understand it and see it and take advantage of it. So that's the way I feel about something that I came across a long time ago. That as I was saying, that I had someone explain to me that there was a world of difference, night and day, world of difference between astrology, which has a bad name because the church doesn't want you to know that the whole of Christianity, Judaism, and Islam is based on astrology. Islam, Judaism, and Christianity are astrological religions based on astrology. Read it. You don't have to be an astronaut. You don't have to be a brain surgeon. Go and read where these religions have come from. And you will see that all three are based on astrology. So I'm saying that astrology itself is a profoundly interesting and important subject. But there's a world of difference between common, what we call astrology, and a legitimate study of how the constellations, the stars, the planets affect us on the earth. And the man who was most famous for getting the closest to that hidden truth was a man named Nostradamus. Nostradamus, over 500 years ago, lived over 500 years ago, and yet even today, 500 years later, his name is still respected. There's still a mystique and a mystical importance to the name Nostradamus. Why? Because he did so many, he had so many prophecies that he prophesied that came to pass exactly the way he said they would. So, you know, you can complain all you want and say that astrology is a bunch of bull. That's what the paid lackeys who have their, quote, degrees from a university who are not interested in you knowing anything. They will tell you, like adults tell children, go out and play. Go out and play ball. The adults want to talk in private, so you go out and play ball and get out of our way. We important adults, we want to talk about something. We don't want you to hear it. So go play ball. Well, I learned a long time ago, I'm not interested in playing ball. I'm not a team player. I always wanted to know, what are you adults talking about while we're out playing ball? I'm not stupid. And so I've learned now that the people who are in power do not want you to know that there are certain things that they have known for a long time, and they're not telling you. And for this particular show, I am saying that astrology itself is the basis for the three major world religions. As I said before, Christianity, Judaism, and Islam are based on astrology, period. End of sentence. And all one needs to do is go to a library and spend a year reading all about the beginnings of all three major religions, where they came from, what they taught 1,000 years ago, what they taught 500 years ago, where these concepts and ideas came from, and then you will finally see what I saw a long time ago. Astrology is the basis for the symbols of world government, national coats of arms, harlotry, flags, corporate coats of arms. The whole world is guided and directed by astrological symbols, words, and terms. I mean, we have, our cars have astrological names. It's just an extraordinary how much astrology has infected and guided the destiny of the human race on the earth with government symbols, seals, as I said, national coats of arms, harlotry, flags, badges, names of universities, names of cities, names of cars, names of countries. So, but there is a difference between regular astrology, which is for sure not as accurate as it could be, but very interesting, very close. Regular astrology is very interesting because it does have many things that people who are educated, unfortunately not too many of those, but people who are educated do see that astrology does have some interesting aspects to it, that it does answer a lot of questions about a personality, about a person's personality, about their life, what happened to them. But again, there's a world of difference between regular astrology, which is very interesting, and what Nostradamus did, which was a mind blower. For some reason, somehow, and I don't know, and I don't think anybody else does, Nostradamus was able to figure out something that we could loosely call astrology. But it's not exactly astrology. It's something like it, but it's far, far more accurate and far more, it's far more important. And so I came into face-to-face with this reality of what Nostradamus did and how he did it. And the more I began to see the people who knew about this subject, the people who were the experts on this subject, when I began to listen to them over the years as they began to explain, well, according to Nostradamus, here is what is going to happen to the world, and here's what's going to happen to this institution or to this person, according to their birthday, according to what Nostradamus would say, not astrology, but according to the way Nostradamus did things. Here's what that means, here's what that means, and every time it's extremely accurate. And so I became infatuated with the idea that Nostradamus knew something that other people didn't. And I have always been interested in that, the world of the occult. The word occult simply means hidden. And the way in which Nostradamus was able to dazzle kings and princes and rulers of Europe and dazzle the people's minds of today around the world with television shows and documentaries on who he was and how he could do what he did. Anyone who could dazzle the whole world with that kind of knowledge of the future that Nostradamus was able to do, that's someone that I immediately was interested in, because that's what I've always been interested in, real extraordinary knowledge and wisdom that's provable, valuable, proved to be very, very valuable. And so when I found out what Nostradamus was really doing, and basically, I am not an authority on this at all, but I got the idea, the general idea of how he was doing it. And it was incredible. It was brilliant. It never occurred to me that to look at the stars and the constellations and the planets the way Nostradamus did it. And then to see how accurate he was doing it his way, I thought, wow, man, this is an incredibly interesting subject. How to see the future, how to know where you are today in your life and what's going to happen to you, where you have been all of your life because of your birthday, where you are now because of your birthday, and where you're going, whether you like it or not, because of your birthday. Well, then we begin to see in religion, as I said, Christianity, the birth of Jesus, the birth of the Messiah. We're told that there were 3 wise men that came to see the new Messiah. 3 wise men were called the Magi in the Bible. The Bible calls the 3 wise men who came to Jesus as Magi, which we give our word magic from, Magi. Well, you will see that the word Magi were astrologers. So it's a hint telling you that they saw his star in the sky. What are you talking about? A star in the sky? Christians will tell you, oh yeah, the Magi saw the star in the sky. They knew about the Messiah. You say, no, wait a minute, go back and I thought you said that astrology, I say to Christians, I thought you said astrology was from the devil. And here we're reading in the Bible that the astrologers, the Magi's, found Jesus, the Messiah, because of a star that they were following. And then when I started thinking about it, well, you know, for thousands of years, the seafaring peoples of the world, the Phoenicians, the Romans, the Greeks, and God knows all the other people, the seafaring peoples of the world that roamed all over the earth on the seas, always guided themselves. They always knew where they were because they knew how to read the stars. Today, even the navies of the world and captains of ships have to know how to guide themselves on the high seas by the stars. They navigate by the stars. So there is something of an importance to this idea of understanding the stars, the planets, and where they are at any one time, because the U.S. Navy and the navies of the world have navigated their trips on the high oceans of the world by the stars. Well, if you're going to navigate yourself by the stars on the ocean, why don't you navigate your life by the stars? And do it the correct way. Do it the way Nostradamus did it. Well, nobody knows how Nostradamus did it. Well, that doesn't mean nobody knows. It means that the whole world knows he was able to do something extraordinary, but how he did it was, it's been kind of hidden. Why? Is because the church in Europe did not want people to know how Nostradamus was able to do what he did. Now, the popes, of course, would be very interested to know, because that would give them a real leg up to know how things were going to happen in the future. So naturally, the kind of thing Nostradamus knew how to do, they would be very interested to know. But keep it under your, keep it among the clergy. Don't tell the people out there in the world. So I'm just saying all of this because I think what Nostradamus did was extraordinary. I think the world knows it. And so when I hear people saying that astrology is a bunch of bull, I think, you know what? Those are empty words. I don't think you know what you're talking about. The only people who say that about astrology are people who know nothing about it. They don't know anything about the history of astrology for the past 7,000 years of human existence on the earth. They don't know anything about why astrological signs, beautiful astrological paintings of signs, existed as far back as 25,000 years ago. People have no idea in the world what the astrological signs mean, where they've come from, and why they are found all over the world. That's something that most people have never even thought about. How come it is every culture on the earth that's ever existed had an astrological signs? Everybody, from Alaska to South America, from India to Hindus to Egyptian, Babylonians, the Greeks, the Romans, everybody had an astrological symbols and signs. Astrology was everywhere on the earth, period. Why? Well, because today our so-called scientists will tell you, oh, it's a bunch of bull. Oh, really? You're saying the Roman Empire was full of bull because they followed astrology? Are you saying that the most powerful people in the world have gained power and knowledge of the universe, and you're telling us, normal people in the street, there's nothing here, so just go on out and play basketball. There's nothing to see. So then I began to see, as I've said, you've heard me talk about this before, Jesus is the light of the world, and he had 12 helpers, and Judaism has a story about the 12 signs of the 12 signs of the zodiac in Judaism are called the 12 brothers of Joseph, the 12 tribes of Israel, the 12 all the instances of the number 12 being used in the Old Testament, in the Jewish Old Testament. Go read in the Bible how many times 12 is used. And Jesus had 12 apostles. And so all of this begs an understanding that Nostradamus was telling us something about the universe and about the life that we live. And he knew things that were in people's lives. He knew things that were coming. He knew things that had happened to them in the past. And so I know that that is very important, and that's why I want to do this show, because I feel so compelled to tell people the reason why we're having so many problems in this country and around the world, the reason people are in trouble with their marriages, with their children, children with their parents, people with their government, governments with the people. The reason there is so much chaos and trouble among humans on the earth, in personal and public. There's all kinds of difficulties and problems, especially as is true, and I know because I've been there, especially for newlyweds, people getting married, having children, and then find out things about their wife or their husband, and it breaks up, and they have a terrible emotional breakup in the family. All because they didn't realize, the girl they were marrying, what she was like and what she was going to be like 10 years from today. The girl didn't know that her husband, that she thought she knew, no, and then she found out it's not what you thought it was. So there's been so much chaos around the world, people making deals that go sour, business decisions that go sour. Why? Because you don't understand how the world works. And people are always saying, well, I wish there was some kind of a magical wand that we could just understand what's going on and understand the real bottom line on things. Well, there is a way. Nostradamus found it, and he was famous for it. So all of this I have said to say this, that if you are truly interested in where you are on the earth, what you're doing, spiritually speaking, where you are in time, where you've come from, where you are now, and where you're going, if you would like to know something really legitimately important about yourself or your family members or friends or anybody else, then you need to go to someone who knows how to read the stars. Not regular astrology, but the way Nostradamus did it. And I've been promoting this kind of an idea on my other website that was stolen from me. I have had people, belittling me because I talk about astrology, and everybody knows if you're important and intelligent, you don't talk about such silly things as astrology. Well, I'm here to tell you it's not silly, that the very powerful people use astrology you don't know anything about. You've never been privy to know anything about it. So if you're really interested, then you might want to contact me and say that you are interested and that you don't mind stepping out and finding out something about yourself and about your life and where you are now and where you're going, the way Nostradamus did it. And so that's what I want to basically end this this discussion about, is that I know people who are able to read your life the way Nostradamus did it. And I have watched this person over the years just quite literally blow people away by his being able to tell them where they have been, what things happened to them and why, what's happening to them right now, and what is going to happen to them in the near future, and then into the far future, all based on the Nostradamus method of reading the stars. So if you're interested, you have to keep in mind first, and I will throw this in, You must keep in mind that my website, the original website that I worked hard to put together and that I owned before it was stolen from me by who stole everything I owned from me. But on my original website, jordanmaxwell.com, which I no longer own for the moment until I can get into court and get my possessions given back to me. But on jordanmaxwell.com was my website. I used to promote the idea that people should get a reading from my friend who is a Nostradamus scholar and who could do this kind of magnificent reading of the stars in relation to one's personal life. And I used to promote him on my website. I've even had him on my radio shows. So if you're on my website, Jordan Maxwell Show, which is my website today, jordanmaxwellshow.com, because jordanmaxwell.com has been stolen from me. So Jordan Maxwell Show, you can go on there and email me and say that you would like to get a reading from my friend who does astrological readings the way Nostradamus did it. And I will guarantee you I'm putting my name on it. I'm staking my name and my reputation on the fact that I know something you don't know. And that if you're really interested, you want to step out and do something really interesting for your life, then have this friend of mine look at your chart, look at your birthday, calculate it the way Nostradamus did it, and then he calls you and sit and talk with you for an hour, 2 hours, whatever it is, and will absolutely astound you. So that for the rest of your life, you will know when you hear people talking about how astrology is a bunch of bull, it amounts to nothing, it's a pseudoscience, you will know that these people are lying. They're either ignorant or they're barefaced lying. Because if you get a reading from my friend, you will know there is in fact something to the stars and how they affect you and how they affect your life. Keep in mind this, that the sun, our sun, is affected by the planets around it. Jupiter affects our sun. Saturn has an effect on our sun. And these planets are so far away, but they have some sort of an effect on the sun. The planets also have an effect on each other. And of course the moon, that's over the top. The moon pulls the tides of the oceans of our earth. The oceans on our earth, the tides are caused by the moon. So depending where the moon is, the tides are going out. Or if it's behind us, then the tides are coming in. Why? Because the moon affects the waters of the earth. Well, you're 70 to 80% water. So does the moon affect you? Because it sure affects the oceans. It affects water, and you're 80% water, so does it affect you? Well, we know that there's been the idea that there are people we call lunatics. That was something that was known a long time ago in history, people who were affected by the moon. We call them lunatics. So the sun affects us in profound ways that you don't even realize. The moon affects us and affects the woman's body. It affects her. It affects the moon, and the planets affect the earth. The ancient peoples, unlike the brilliant intellectual giants we have today who say that the planets have no effect on anything, but the ancient peoples knew when to plant food, to when to harvest. The ancient peoples of the world understood the difference between the new moon, the full moon, and when to plant, when to grow, when to harvest, when not to do something by the new moon. That's what the ancient kings and rulers of the world knew, all of that. And that's what all you got to do is just a cursory study of ancient history, and you will see all the kings and important peoples of the world have always guided their nations and their people by the understanding of where the planets are. So all I'm saying in conclusion is this, is that if you would like to have a reading from my friend, keep in mind that on my old website, the people who stole my website, these who stole my website, have put out on that website that they control, that they took from me, and they are putting out slander and libelous stuff, making it look like I am saying it. I have nothing to do with JordanMaxwell.com. I have it. I don't own it. I don't have any control over it. The people who are going to, the people who have stolen everything from me, ripped me off and left me for dead, have stolen my website. And now they want to hurt not only me, but they want to hurt anyone who is my friend or anyone that I am promoting. Anything that I am promoting, they want to destroy. And so on my old website, they're talking about my friend, the astrologer, and the stuff they're saying, the slanderous stuff they're saying about him is not true. And I think it's about time that people need to understand nothing on JordanMaxwell.com is from me. It's from scandalous who have stolen my website from me, stolen everything from me, and are now lying and using my name and my website to lie and say things that I never said. So if you want to know something about your life, go to my friend, email me, just email the radio show, or you can email me directly. My email is JordanMaxwellShow.com. Very simple, JordanMaxwellShow.com. It's on my website, and so if you email...
Jordan, may I interject?
Yes.
Your email is jordanmaxwellshow@gmail.com.
That's what it is.
jordanmaxwellshow@gmail.com. jordanmaxwellshow@gmail.com. And one more thing too, Jordan. You said in conclusion, I would like to continue talking. I'd like to get into more detail if that's okay with you.
Oh, I think that's a great idea. Since we're already here and we don't have a chance to do radio very much, I think it'd be a great idea. But I want to stress that again. Give that email that people who want to get a reading from you, give them the email again.
What they can do, they could email Jordan directly. That's jordanmaxwellshow@gmail.com. Or they can just contact the astrology website, which there's a link there that says True Zodiac Astrology.
Right. Say it again. Explain it to them where it is on the website and what to do with it.
It'll be on the right. I think it's under your highly recommended, and you just scroll down and you'll see a link. It's in bold purple, True Zodiac Astrology.
That's it.
But Jordan, what I would like to get into, unless you'd like to say something more, I don't mean to interrupt.
Let me say a few more things.
Sure.
Go on my website to JordanMaxwellShow.com, and there'll be a place where it says contact, so you can hit that and send an email. I'll get it. But like said, it's on the right-hand side, right-hand column of my website. On every page on the right-hand side, scroll down where it says recommended, or highly recommended, and you will see a link to True Zodiac. Click on that and book a reading. And it's like anything else in the world. You get what you pay for. If you want a little bit of knowledge, you pay a little bit. If it's important to get a little bit more knowledge, well, then you pay a little bit more. You get what you pay for in the world we live. However, if it's really important knowledge, if it's something very important you need to know, well, then you're going to expect to pay a little more then. And if it's extraordinarily important to you, then you might be paying, you're going to be paying more yet. So it just depends on how much do you want in this world. You get what you pay for. So if you really want something of real importance, Jordan Maxwell says, go on my website to jordanmaxwellshow.com. Go to the right-hand side, and you will see the highly recommended sites and links, and you will see, what is it again called?
True Zodiac Astrology.
That's it. And click on that, book a reading, and then you tell me. You write back and you tell me what you think of my recommendation. I stake my name on it. Extraordinary knowledge that you have no idea until you experience what the Nostradamus method of astrology can do for you. So if you're smart, the Bible says a word to the wise is sufficient. I remember reading that many years ago. A word to the wise is sufficient, meaning that if you are truly intellectually wise, if you're mature and intelligent, you don't have to have someone explain it for 3 hours to you to get the importance of something. If you're truly wise, perceptive, intelligent, you don't need someone to explain something for 3 hours. Someone important can tell you something, one sentence, and say it to you, and if you're wise, you get it. If you're not wise, somebody can talk to you for 2 hours, and you still don't get it. So a word, not a sentence or a full book, no, a word to the wise is sufficient. So I've been giving you a lot of words, but I'm giving you one last word to the wise, which should be sufficient. If you really are interested in knowing something about yourself and about the world you live in and where you're going, what's happening to you and why, then you might want to do something really extraordinary for yourself. Get our Nostradamus reading from my friend. And that's, like I said, I'm staking my name and my reputation on it. This is a very, very important thing for you to do. And don't bother with reading anything about or me on my old website, because that's put on there by my enemies who are trying to hurt me and destroy me, so I can't do anything about them stealing everything from me. No, these are my enemies, and they're talking about me, and they're talking about my friends, trying to destroy myself, my name, my work, and destroy my friends. I think what does is actually extraordinarily brilliant stuff, but it's not him. It's what Nostradamus gave us and left us, and he is an expert on that subject. So get a reading from, go on my website, right-hand side. You'll see the link for True Astrology. Click on it and get a reading. Okay, let's talk about astrology. Tell us the difference between regular astrology and the Nostradamus method, and how all of this stuff works. All I know is that it works. I don't know how it works, but I know it works. It has worked incredible things that I have learned from you, and the readings I have heard you do and given to me are so extraordinary. I want the world to know about it. I want people to know about you and what your work. So for those people who have the feelings about astrology as nonsense, etc., explain to us the difference between the two and what Nostradamus was able to do, because obviously he did some very important things, because 500 years later he's still important. So give us a rundown on the whole idea. As I have said before, I know that there is a difference between regular astrology and what Nostradamus was able to do, which is similar. It's in the same category of science, Nostradamus, but Nostradamus did not do astrology as such. He did something, whatever it was he did it so that even kings and rulers and princes and people, and even 500 years later, his name is still illustrious. His name is still understood to be the great master who could tell the future. Well, there was a way he did it. And so I wanted you to, kind of give a rundown on the difference between what we call astrology today and what Nostradamus did. And, just explain this all to me and to those listening.
Well, speaking of kings, Jordan, in regards to astrology, that's directly connected to why they were crowned at 12 noon. That's when the sun in the day is at its highest.
That's right.
And Leo in astrology means kingship, and Leo's dignified ruler is the sun. So there's a little background on astrology and kings. But Nostradamus, the way I was taught, Nostradamus was doing what's called a solar chart method. Nostradamus did not use birth times. It's not required. It's nice if you have one, but it's not critical, unlike in conventional astrology. In conventional astrology, everything's calculated off of the ascendant. You need a birth time for that. See, but in Nostradamus' day, no one had Casio digital watches. Who was born in a hospital? Who could even afford a watch or a clock?
Yeah, you're right.
So, what you're doing what Nostradamus did, which is a solar chart method, you put the sun in the first house. And speaking of houses, in astrology, you have the signs, the 12 signs of the zodiac. Then you have the houses. Well, in conventional astrology, there's a multitude of housing systems. Sometimes two houses will intersect one sign. The Nostradamus method, the way I was taught, one sign equals one house. You have totally eliminated that problem. So that's really the basics of the Nostradamus method. It's surprisingly and profoundly simple. But then, yet again, so is the equation E equals mc squared, which has all kinds of implications for gravity and the relative nature of time. But it's a very simple equation. You just need an IQ of Einstein to perceive it, to discover it. So that's what I like to think when I hear the Nostradamus method is simple. Yes, it's profoundly simple. See? So no separate housing system, one house equals one sign, and it's a solar chart method. You put the sun in the first house. Now, the way I was taught, there was one anomaly. And sometimes when you're using the Nostradamus solar chart method, the sun can end up in house number 2 because of the way the signs are and the timing of the signs. When you use constellations, you don't get that problem. The sun always ends up in the first house. You have a true solar chart method. And we've discussed this on other shows. This is what I believe Nostradamus was doing. He was looking at the constellations. They are different. They are emphatically different than the signs. There is a sign called Scorpio. You can't see that sign with your eyes. That's an artificial division of the ecliptic into 12 30-degree equal sectors. Okay? But the constellations are the group of stars. There's a group of stars called Scorpio. That you can see with your eyes. And then that band that the planets orbit the sun around, that's the ecliptic. See, now my thinking is, I'm not an archaeologist, but my thinking is the Greeks took the sky out of astrology. That's what happens when you use signs. There's no sky in it. There's no backdrop of fixed stars. See? So they took the ecliptic, which from our vantage point on Earth looks like the sun going around the Earth. It's really the Earth going around the sun. But they took that ecliptic, they divided it into 12 30-degree equal sectors. They got the number 30 because that's how long it takes for the moon to go around the Earth. It's 29.57 some days, okay? But for all intents and purposes, round it up to 30. That's why they divided it into 12 30-degree equal sectors. And that's incidentally also, too, why 30-degree angles are so meaningful in astrology. But that being said, though, strictly speaking, what's called astrology really is eclipticology. You're making observations and positioning things relative to the ecliptic. Well, astrology means study of the stars. I personally think Nostradamus was using the fixed stars. I've never been to the archives. I have no way of verifying that. I base that statement off the fact that there's YouTube videos where they're speaking of the lost books of Nostradamus, and he makes reference to the constellation called Ophiuchus, which does not exist when you're using signs. You look at the night sky, you'll see Scorpio, and then you'll see the feet of Ophiuchus, the serpent bearer, and then you will see Sagittarius. So if Nostradamus was making reference to Ophiuchus, he could not have been talking about signs. That's my deductive reasoning, because there is no Ophiuchus when you're using the signs. There's Scorpio, and then there's Sagittarius. You look at the night sky, there's Scorpio, Ophiuchus, and then Sagittarius.
All right, so what you're saying, if I'm following this, is that if you've got a reference book on astrology and it's showing you all the astrological signs and all the implications of those signs, and they're all beautiful pictures of the different astrological signs, you close the book, because what Nostradamus was doing has nothing to do with looking at the signs. What he was doing, if I'm understanding you, is he was actually going out and looking into the sky, not the signs.
That's exactly what I think, Jordan. That is my opinion.
But that would make sense, because the sky is where the story is, not the pictures. The pretty pictures in the book do not tell you, if you're a real master, that doesn't tell you anything. They're pretty pictures, they're beautifully painted pictures, but it doesn't tell you anything. But if you really know the heavens, you go out and look up into the sky, and whatever you see, that's the real stuff, not the sign.
Well, that being said, there's a story behind the signs. Okay, but because of the precession of the equinoxes, right now, when you have the spring equinox, which is the 0 degrees of the sign Aries, when you look over your head, you see the constellation of Pisces. There will come a day that 0 degrees Aries will occur at the spring equinox in the northern hemisphere. And then what you'll see over your head is the exact opposite of Aries, the constellation of Libra. Which one do you pick? Now, when you see the constellation of Libra over your head, that's applicable to the whole world. But the first day of spring, our spring equinox in the northern hemisphere, would be the fall equinox in the southern hemisphere. So what are you? Northern hemisphere, you would be considered an Aries, but at the same date, at the same time, in the southern hemisphere, you would be considered a Libra. You don't have that problem when you're using constellations. See, and I think that, combined with the simplicity of what Nostradamus was doing, now maybe you're getting somewhere. Now, here's my approach to astrology, Jordan. Once again, I first spoke to you on the phone in September of 1996 when you were working at Truth Seeker in San Diego. And then we met in San Diego, February of 1997, and you suggested I get an astrological chart reading. And I was totally befuddled, baffled, and dumbfounded. Why is the brilliant researcher and scholar Jordan Maxwell talking about something and actually highly recommending something that I consider completely bogus? But you spent the previous hour explaining why. So in October of 1998, I had my chart read, and a lot of it was surprisingly accurate. And that's where I started thinking, ooh, there's more to this story. I need to look at this. So, and that gets into all the things I discovered you were talking about in the previous hour. Now, look, Jordan, at this point in time, I even tell this because I have the luxury of being able to talk to a lot of people in your audience. That's quite a luxury. That gives me the ability to field test a lot of ideas. See? So my approach to astrology, and I tell this to the people who've had readings from me, hey, on your left hand, be extremely dubious and skeptical. Be very slow to believe. It's a healthy, mature, adult attitude. And then again, on the right hand, do not prejudice any source of information. Now, thanks to you, you're imprimatur. Because people respect what you say, they take the chance. Okay? And they get the readings. And they enjoy the readings. Now, me, looking at it from a strictly empirical vantage point, I just say to myself, all these people can't be fools. I can't be fooling all of them, because there are some people in your audience, Jordan, who are actually very eminent and prominent. Believe it or not. And based on some of the books they've published and who they are, I don't get the idea, this is somebody I'm fooling, with the tomfoolery called astrology. So I just look at it from a scientific point of view. There must be something to this.
That's what I feel. That's why I promote it, because I know for sure it is.
Now, myself, George, I don't evangelize for astrology. I tell the people who call. I don't know you. I can't see your face. We're talking voice to voice, either on Skype or on a phone. I'll read what the symbols say. You make a decision. You use your intellect, wisdom, judgment, common sense, and experience to decide if what these symbols say correspond to your reality. Perhaps it's just confirmational bias. You are inclined to believe what I'm saying based on the symbols because Jordan Maxwell recommended this, and I'm just speaking very generally, right? But I'd have to say my impression now, looking at it just from a very detached viewpoint, a lot of people seem to think these symbols, and in terms of your work, Jordan, symbolism is extremely important. They seem to think the story these symbols often end up telling is very accurate. I don't know why, but I do think it's interesting. This is another thing, too, once again, from having the luxury of being able to speak to a lot of people in your audience who, oblige your recommendation. This astrology is 95% a symbolic language. But then again, our alphabet, those are symbols. Look how versatile that is. You can take the 26 letters of the Latin alphabet, our Latin alphabet, 26 letters. From that, you get Shakespeare, Encyclopedia Britannica.
Yeah.
So imagine now you have all these symbols, a language of, the symbols of the cosmos. And you have more there. You have 13 constellations, that the ecliptic moves through. You've got these various planetary bodies. You have the angles and the aspects they make. And this is another thing, too, which you were saying about the backdrop of astrology. Because I still look at it, I still look at it from a detached point of view, like somebody just observing it in a very detached fashion. But we have a phrase, that was an aspect of his character. That's an aspect of her character. Well, that's
true. I've heard that.
Well, that's precisely what you have in astrology. That shows you how deeply embedded into culture astrology was and is. That's an aspect of his or her character. Well, that's what you call an angle between two planets. You call that a planetary aspect. There you go.
Yeah. Well, in the Bible, in the New Testament, has Jesus saying that in my Father's house are many mansions. And if it were not true, I would have told you so. In my Father's house are many mansions. So Christianity has always pictured it as, well, we're going to heaven where we'll live in a great mansion with the Lord Jesus. For the scripture says, I think it's in the book of John, where Jesus said, in my Father's house are many mansions. Well, if you go actually to the Bible reference works, the encyclopedias and Bible dictionaries, you will find that that's not exactly correct. That's a mistranslation. And the Bible reference books will show you it's a mistranslation. It doesn't say in my Father's house are many mansions. That's not what it says exactly. What it actually says, according to all the different Bible reference works, all basically say the same thing. The commentaries, the encyclopedias, biblical encyclopedias, reference works, they all tell you that what is actually being said is that in my Father's abode are many houses. Not in my Father's house are many mansions. No, in my Father's abode. That's the word which is actually used in the original scripture, translated abode. Not in my Father's house. No, in my Father's abode are many houses. No, not mansions, houses. So that to correctly understand what Jesus was saying, in my Father's house are many mansions. No, in my Father's abode are many houses. What is the Father's abode? Well, that's where the Father lives. Where does the Father live? Well, he doesn't live in Cincinnati. He lives in heaven. Out there in heaven is where the Father lives. Well, in my Father's abode, where the Father God lives, are many houses. Oh, that's different. In the Father's abode, the abode is the sky, the heavens. And so therefore the correct way of reading that, John, is in my Father's abode, the heavens are many houses. That's the way the Bible references works explain it. So that's true. You go out at night and look into the sky, that's where God lives, out there. And the abode of the heavens are many houses. Yeah, there's about 13 of them we're talking about right now. Many houses. And I think it's interesting that we call the different signs of the zodiac houses. This is the house of Leo, the house of Aquarius, many houses. That's what the Bible is trying to tell you. So, in my Father's house are many mansions. No. Correct is in my Father's abode are many houses. Houses of the zodiac.
Well, in astrology, even with the Nostradamus method, you have 13 constellations, but Scorpio and Ophiuchus I combine into one house. So you have 12 houses. And my God, Jordan, you've spoken over and over again. We've said it, the significance of the number 12.
Of course, it's everywhere in the Bible, in the Old Testament and New. So anyway.
Now, another thing too, Jordan, once again, maybe we can just speculate on the air. My conclusion at this time, because once again, this all started by accident. I did a show with you, okay, and then, there was a much more audience response than I expected. So, but anyway, that being said, speculation-wise, from speaking to all these people for over a year, right? Astrology is a symbolic language. And my God, if anybody understands the significance and importance of symbols, I would think that would be Jordan Maxwell.
That's why I was so determined that people look at what I'm saying, listen to what I'm saying, that it's not astrology. It's the Nostradamus method of reading the heavens, and that he was famous for 500 years ago. He's still famous. Why? Because he did something that other people could not do. He made it very simple, and was very, very accurate. And so all the people that you've given readings to that heard me talking about you, have written me. I know they've written you and talked with you, but they also write me and say, Jordan, we took your advice and we got a reading, and we were absolutely amazed. That is not like anything I have ever heard in astrology. I've had other astrological readings. This was nothing like an astrological reading. This was extraordinarily and interesting stuff that was going into my personal life like no astrologer has ever done. And they thanked me profusely, thank you for showing me and putting me on to him. I would never have known about him if it wasn't for you. So that's why I'm so adamant about promoting you, because I know everybody has ever gotten a reading from you, has contacted me and said how incredible the reading was and how they thank me all the time, thanking me for putting them in touch with you. So that's what I do. That's who I am. I want to help my fellow man and wake up and find out how this stuff really works. So go on.
Well, myself, Jordan, I'm discovering as I go along. Because once again, I try to look at it just from a very detached viewpoint. I don't evangelize for astrology. But this being said, the symbolic nature of it, you can look at Adolf Hitler. You can look at his astrological chart, and one thing you will notice based on the symbolism, and I'd be interested to hear your commentary upon this when I finish. Adolf Hitler had a very exact conjunction. A conjunction means two planets at 0 degrees. Now, it might have been 0.03. Maybe it wasn't exactly 0.00. That would be an exact conjunction. But Adolf Hitler conjunction between Venus and Mars was very close to 0.00. Off the top of my head, I don't know exactly what it was, but it would be something along the lines of 0.04. This is where the symbolism gets interesting. And this is how simple astrology can be. Venus represents love. Look into antiquity. My God, venereal disease. It has the word VEN in it. Why? Because Venus represented love. I think venereal disease has a connection to love on occasion. Okay, there's some of the symbolism of Venus. Mars, the Babylonians, the Sumerians came up with the symbolism. It still stands today. Mars represents the warrior, the athlete, war, aggression, energy. So you look at Adolf Hitler's birth chart and you see a nearly exact conjunction of Venus and Mars. You would look at it symbolically and say, love of war. Is that?
Yeah.
That's, I always tell the people I read, it's symbolic guesswork on my part, but decide if that interpretation corresponds to reality. Now, hindsight's 20/20, okay? But it is interesting. You can look at Adolf Hitler's birth chart and see a nearly exact conjunction of Venus and Mars, and the symbols would suggest a man who indulges a love of war. And unfortunately, that symbolism has proven to be true.
Yeah. If anybody loved war, he did.
So that's the basics of how you do astrology. See, this is a little different than the newspaper astrology. That's talking about sun signs. It's very general. They make predictions. They're probably looking at planetary aspects, right? But going back to symbolism, Jordan, if you see a day where the sun is making a trine to Mars, you might be inclined to think this might be a good day for war. Sun trine Mars. That's what I mean about the symbolic nature of astrology. And when you start going deep into this with people, when they decide to get a reading, they often think that symbolism is applicable to me. I always tell people who call, I say, look, from a strictly scientific point of view, you'd have to say this is symbolic guesswork. You be the judge whether this corresponds, this narrative that these symbols produce. You be the judge based on your own wisdom, common sense, intellect, judgment, and experience. If that symbolic story, you find it applicable and insightful to your life. So far, a lot of people have. I have no idea. That's one reason I'm interested in your commentary on what you think might be, what is going on here, that how is it possible these symbols actually seem to produce an accurate narrative of someone's life. It gives you a lot of insight into their character. If you're dating a lady whose moon conjuncts Mars, you know, that might tell you something about her nature. She might not want flowers. She might want you to grab her off the street while you going on by on your Harley.
Yeah. You have to know the makeup, the spiritual makeup and the nature of each person, and that is according to the stars and as I told you before, the moon affects the oceans of the world. So obviously the moon has some kind of an effect on the earth. It certainly does. It causes the oceans to move one way or the other. The sun also has a profound effect on human beings. It causes things to grow from as far away, from that far away, but things grow and live because of the sun. We know that energy from the sun gives us energy to live. So the planets around us, the ancient peoples, as I said, go to the Bible and read how the ancient peoples knew when to plant food, the Native Americans and all the ancient cultures of the world. They built and understood the implications of the planets and where they were. Go to the Farmer's Almanac. My God, go back 220 years to Farmer's Almanac, and they tell you when to plant. Go get a copy of the Farmer's Almanac that comes out every year. They tell you about where the storms are going to most likely be, and what months are going to be good for this, and what months are good for that, and what the stars are saying. So it's always been something of very important to understand the heavens. So that's why I just keep drilling on this subject, is that the Nostradamus was able to do so many phenomenal things that he was able to foretell. And I've seen you do it with me in particular, and other people that I highly recommend you to. That I've said this on the air. I'll just say it again. That about a year and a half before it happened, I remember talking with you, and you told me that it looks like a year and a half from now, there's going to be an incredible banking crisis, and it's going to shake the banking institutions of the world. And it's going to happen in a year and a half from now, and you gave me the month. And the reason why is because of the way Nostradamus looked at things. That's what you were doing. And you said, well, from the looks of it, I'm not God, but from the looks of it, according to the way Nostradamus calculated things, it looks like the banking industry is going to run into a wall. It's going to be a horrible, devastating banking crisis around the world. And it's going to start, and you gave me the month and a year and a half in the future. And that very month is when the housing bubble broke and all the stuff about banking started to happen. And I remember calling you and saying, you know what, a year and a half ago you told me this was going to happen. And you said to me, well, I told you this is what Nostradamus was all about. I can, if you understand the heavens and the signs, you can see the future. So that's what really caught my attention. And then the more I began, seeing what you were doing and watching what you were telling other people and having it happen in their life, just exactly the way you were saying it, that's what caught my attention. I want people to know that they can find out phenomenally interesting things about themselves, what has happened to them in the past, where they are now, and where they are going, things which are coming in the future. So that's why I, again, put my name and my reputation on this, because I'm very impressed with what I have watched over the years. We've known each other since, 96? And I have watched over and over and over. The people who get readings from you contact me and say, my God, if I had only known, I wish I would have known this about myself and about the people I was in business with. I mean, there's a whole story there about people, businessmen who have gotten readings, and they told me if I had, I would have made a horrible mistake if I had not talked to. He explained to me about my chart and about the chart of the people I'm dealing with, and helped me immensely not to make a big mistake in my life. So that's why I'm always promoting you and promoting this Nostradamus method, because I know it works. It's not astrology. It's something totally different. And that's why I wanted people to know about you and to get a reading. And I'm always delighted to hear people get back to me and tell me what they think.
Well, Jordan, that the financial collapse, what I did, this is the amazing thing about it, and I don't know how it works. It's a symbolic language. And what the symbol suggested, I was using constellations and the dragon's tail. Okay, in astronomy, the dragon's tail is known as the south node of the moon. Very simple, where the moon crosses the ecliptic heading towards the southern hemisphere, south pole. Well, dragon's tail in astrology, the ancients called it a dragon, not a puppy dog's tail, not a kitty cat's tail. They're trying to tell you this is something powerful. There's that symbolism again. The dragon's tail was in the constellation of Cancer. And I say Cancer rules money because of the connection to the moon. So you see a dragon's tail, which symbolically means stress, and you see it moving into Cancer. You just putting the symbols together to say stress with money. That's it. And then it happened. That's what's weird about it. Now look what the scientists say. And I look at both sides of the issue. And there's been people who've they've done astrology for years, and then they'll accidentally have somebody come in named Mary Smith, and then they accidentally read the chart for Barbara Johnson. But Mary Smith is very happy. It's not even her birth date. And she says, that was the most accurate reading ever. And then the astrologer person is very disturbed. Because it's like, oh, I just read the wrong person, but the other person thought it was extremely accurate. See? So they've come to the conclusion, well, astrology, it's guesswork, it's probabilities, it's generalities, but it's always nice to give people a mythological, cosmic narrative to their life, and that's why people are seduced by it. They're seduced by it because, it's comforting to know you're part of something living called the universe and your fate is intertwined with it. But scientifically, it's complete BS. I understand that point of view. See? But once again, I go back to your audience, Jordan. I look at it that way. I mean, anybody with 2 brain cells can come to that conclusion, which I just discussed, right? But there are, again, some people in your audience who are extremely educated, published authors, and they listen to this symbolic narrative, and they come to the conclusion that, I don't know, this kind of sounds like me. This has got nothing to do with me, Jordan. This is something pertaining to this thing called astrology.
Well, I know.
Yeah, so it's
like I said, I've had so many people tell me that it was an extraordinary experience looking at their life through the eyes of Nostradamus. The way he would have, if he had been alive today, people have said, I felt like I was talking to Nostradamus, because if he had been alive today and I had the chance to actually be in his company and hear him talk to me about my life, well, that's what we just did. I just had a reading, and it was it was the most incredible experience I've ever had. And it has nothing to do with astrology as we know it. It's a totally different thing. So at this point, I think we both have made the point I want made to my audience, is that it's very important people get a reading from you, and that's the bottom line. That's what I wanted people to know and understand. It's very important they get a reading from you, and so you get that on my website. There's so many more things that I want to talk about, but this I felt was something that needed to be said. Go on my website, jordanmaxwellshow.com, and on the right-hand side, scroll down, and you'll see the highly recommended links, and you'll see the astrological readings. Click on it, get a reading, and then you tell me if this was something that's just an ordinary astrological reading. You will find out, no, thank you. That's why I put my name and my reputation on this, because I know this is extraordinarily incredible insight that the universe is giving us that most people will never be privy to know, because they've heard the church bad-mouthing it and saying there's nothing to astrology. This is not astrology. This is a Nostradamus wisdom and knowledge of the universe and how it affects you. So enough said. A word to the wise is sufficient. I think we've said enough. People should just get a reading, and there's so many other things we need now to talk about. So let's move on.
May I say one more thing? I know you want to conclude it, but here's another thing you'll see in astrology, how this symbolic language works. And I don't know why. I don't think anybody knows why. I don't even think Nostradamus knew why. Doesn't matter. You make the observation and it appears to work. But what you will often see, symbolically, Pluto in astrology, amongst its other symbolisms, represents big business. And you will notice, you'll have a Pluto in your natal chart. The day you were born, Pluto was in a certain position. And that's your natal chart, so everything remains stationary. You're always carrying that with you, but obviously the planets keep orbiting about the sun. They keep moving. They interact with that chart. And you will notice on the days, and there's some caveats to this, but usually on the days where Saturn, which if anybody understands the symbol of Saturn, it's Jordan Maxwell. But in astrology, Saturn's known as the great malefic. Malefic. Bad intent. Right? So Saturn, making a stressful angle to your natal Pluto, you'll often find you'll have a crystallization of business problems. You'll have some glitch or something like that. I don't know why, but that's just what the symbolic narrative will suggest. And that's the basis of this stuff. But once again, it's kind of like, the basis of Shakespeare, kindergartners learned it. C-A-T spells cat. It's very simple. Yeah. And again, the works of Shakespeare are extremely profound. So I don't purport to be Nostradamus or to be as good as Nostradamus, but there does seem to be something here. And once again, it was important for me to hear what you had to say. Why do you promote astrology? Because because I've gotten emails. Why is Jordan Maxwell promoting astrology? I don't get it. See? And that's how I felt when you started.
Well, yeah, but my answer to that is I am not promoting astrology. I'm promoting Nostradamus's method of astrophilosophy, a whole different kind of story. Has nothing to do with astrology as such. It has to do with a famous man who 500 years after he's dead, he is still famous around the world for what he was able to do. That's what I'm promoting, not astrology. I'm promoting the work of a genius, a man called Nostradamus. And if you find out how he did what he did, then for the first time you will see the importance of what Nostradamus knew and how he could tell the future but with it, and he's still famous today for doing it. And so that's what I am promoting, not astrology.
Okay, yeah, see, and that's why this show was even informative for me. The first hour was incredible. I enjoyed hearing that. Why this? Because obviously astrology, not astrology, conventional astrology, the astrology you're talking about, that obviously complements astrotheology.
Absolutely. It certainly does. And there's a hidden message, and I'm famous for saying that. People have been hearing me for years saying that. There's a hidden message. It's a metaphor, a symbolic metaphor, a symbolic message in the New Testament. So that's why today, if you're reading the New Testament story of Jesus in the Bible, and you're reading it as history, then there's going to be 2,520 different interpretations. That's how many, last time I read, over 2,500 Christian denominations and sects around the world who call themselves Christian. When the Apostle Paul said, I say that we should all speak in agreement. Well, in point of fact, that's not true. Even though the Apostle Paul wrote in the epistles, I would suggest we all speak in agreement. Well, in point of fact, that's not what happens. There's over 2,500 different so-called Christian religions, Christian concepts. Then you've got all the different sects and cults, from Jehovah's Witnesses, the Mormons, Seventh-day Adventists, Catholic, Protestant, all kinds of different, even within the Baptist Church, you have Southern Baptists and Northern Baptists, and you have all kinds of different divisions within divisions. So, nobody is speaking in unison. Nobody. Even in a particular church, in a particular Baptist church, anybody who's done any kind of research knows what I'm saying. That you can go to one Baptist church and talk to the ministers there and ask them certain questions, and then go to another Baptist church on the other side of town and ask them the identical same questions, and they will give you totally different answers, totally different reasons. And the more churches you go to, the more different concepts and ideas will be expressed, which means nobody knows what they're talking about. They're just telling you what they know from the best that they know. They're not authorities. Then you begin to see, well, there's no central authority in Judaism, and there's basically no central authority in the Islamic world. There's no central authority in Christianity, period. Why? Because you're reading the scriptures as history, and that's not history. The New Testament is an encoded story. It's a metaphor. And this is why the scripture says that many will look with their eyes but not see, and listen with their ears but not hear, and with the heart they don't get the sense of it. And so if you understand that the story of Jesus in the New Testament is not history, it's a story. This is why the Bible is referred to as the greatest story ever told. It's a story. It's an encoded, hidden, metaphoric story. And once you understand the story, for the first time you will say, oh, now I understand what the Bible is saying about Jesus. Now I get it. It was an encoded metaphor. And the encoded metaphor and symbolic story that you call the New Testament story of Jesus is actually astrology at the highest point. It's very, very profoundly in your face, obvious, once you begin to see how these symbols and words and terms in the New Testament were talking about astrology. That's why Jesus is referred to as God's Son. the light of the world. He's referred to as the light of the world. Well, of course, the sun is the light of the world. And he had 12 helpers. He had 12 followers. Well, of course, the sun has 12 helpers, 12 followers. The 12 signs of the zodiac, the 12 months of the year. And so each one of those houses of the zodiac brought the world the sun. So that's why you have in courts, you have 12 jurors on the jury system. You have 12 jurors. Why? Because they need to help God's Son bring to light the truth. So they're looking for the truth and the light. So you have to have 12 jurors, 12 signs of the zodiac. So once you understand that the story of the New Testament is a metaphor for astrology, then you get into the Nostradamus method of reading the things correctly in the heavens. Now you have a whole new world of knowledge opening up to you that you never even knew existed. And just keep in mind that the people who put down this kind of knowledge, the people who are putting it down and calling it devil worship and demon worship, are themselves ignorant, ill-informed, and blind. And that's what the scripture said, the blind who lead the blind, and both will fall into the pit. Well, by their fruits, Jesus said, by their fruits you shall know them. There's a story in the New Testament where a group of people came to Jesus and they had seeds in their hand. And they showed the seeds to Jesus and they asked him, what kind of seeds are these? And Jesus says, go and plant the seeds. And watch what comes up after you planted the seeds. So after you plant the seeds, if a peach tree comes up, that answers your question. They were peach seeds. But if an apple tree grows up, then it was an apple seeds. So you don't need to be a famous scientist to figure it out. Very simple. Plant the thing and watch what comes up. And then he said, this is a relation to the rest of the world. Jesus goes on to say, so by their fruits you shall know them. Meaning, by the fruitage of the different religions, you can tell what they are. So what is the fruitage of Islam? What is the fruitage for the world of Judaism? What are the fruits that the world has gathered from Christianity? What is the fruitage? Well, you don't have to be an astronaut or have a high school education to look around the world and look at the human race. Look at the fruitage of our domination by religion, Christianity, Judaism, Islam. Look at the fruitage. Wars, violence, drive-by killings and shootings, gangs, murder, drug addiction, violence, corruption, filth, degeneracy, pornography, violence, killings, gangs, murder, mafia, corruption everywhere. That's the fruitage of the three major religions. By their fruits you shall know them. And what is the one thing that all three of the major religions are all championing and saying together is that astrology is all a bunch of bull and don't look at it, don't have anything to do with it. Well, by their fruits you shall know them. So there's nothing of any intrinsic value, period, in the churchianity of today. Nothing of any intrinsic or human value in Islam or Judaism or Christianity today, period. By their fruits you shall know them. Look at the world you live in. That's the fruitage. However, as I said, Nostradamus just blew people away. He was able to tell people what was going to happen in the future. So that's why I want people to know about you and about the whole idea of Nostradamus, because it has nothing to do with astrology. And I know that so many people have seen on my old website the condemnation of you, which I didn't do. It's the people who stole my website put it out there to hurt you, to destroy and ruin your name because you were my friend and I was promoting you. So they don't want anything I'm doing to go out. So they want to destroy my name, my website, steal from me, take everything I own. And any friend of mine, they want to destroy with them. So that's why if you go on Jordan Maxwell show, just go to Jordan Maxwell show, get a reading from then you tell me what the real story is. Anyway, I think that we have said enough tonight that we should pick this up and start talking about some other interesting points in relation to this conversation the next program.
Okay, Jordan. Sounds good, and thanks for answering my questions.
Well, thank you for being with me. I appreciate your work, and I think people who get a reading are really going to be astounded. They always are, always are. And again, thank you, and if you want to help me at this particular time in my life when I'm fighting who have stole everything from me, if you want to donate to my website, it helps me immensely. So, again, get a reading from and if you wish to help me, you can make a donation. And thank you for listening.
Okay, Jordan. Good night.
Good night.